Once upon a time, in Obuofia village, smoke from cooking fires curled into the sky before dawn. Roosters crowed, and women tied their wrappers tightly as they hurried to the market square. Children fetched water, men sharpened cutlasses, and laughter floated through the air like song. At the edge of the market, under an old udara tree, there was a cooking stall that smelled like heaven. That stall belonged to Manki, a wide, dark-skinned woman with tribal marks that ran across her cheeks like paths of memory. Her food could calm anger. Her soup could heal sadness. Her jollof rice tasted like comfort after rain. Nobody in Obuofia cooked like her. People said Manki didn't just feed stomachs, she fed souls. She gave food to the hungry, free plates to the poor, and smiles to those who had none. Her favorite saying was, "Let your pot never go cold while your neighbor is hungry." But behind that wide smile was a woman who carried deep pain. Her husband, Odigo, had died in a road accident on his way from Enugu. Her only son, Ifoni, had gone to the city to find work and never returned. Some said he died. Some said he forgot her. Only Manki knew the truth, and she cooked through her pain. Every morning, she would sweep her stall, whisper a prayer, and light her firewood. "Lord," she would say softly, "let this pot bring peace today." And truly, peace came, until one day, something strange began to happen. That morning, as she stirred her pot of egusi soup, the fire crackled loudly, like thunder. Then the pot shook, slightly, as if someone unseen had touched it. Manki paused, looked around, and whispered, "Who is there?" No answer. Only the sound of the wind moving through the udara leaves. She shrugged and kept stirring. But when she lifted the spoon, she saw a handprint on the side of her pot, a hand made of smoke. Her heart skipped. "Jesus, what is this?" she whispered. She blinked, and it vanished. She tried to calm herself. "Maybe it's just the heat," she said aloud. But deep inside, something whispered to her spirit, "Manki, your pot is calling." She looked up at the sky. It was turning red too early, and the birds had gone silent. She didn't know that from that day, Obuofia would never be the same again. The next morning, Manki arrived at the market earlier than usual. The sky was still pale, and the cock had not finished crowing. She spread her mat, washed her pots, and started her fire. The flames danced quietly, almost too quietly. As she poured palm oil into the pot, a cold wind blew through the udara tree above her. The fire flickered blue for a moment. She blinked. "Oh, ordinary breeze," she murmured and kept cooking. By the time the market woke up, the smell of her stew filled every corner. Women selling tomatoes, gari, and okra began humming. Even the village drunkard, Ogwogu, stopped drinking palm wine to sniff the air. "Manki, don't start again, oh," he shouted, laughing. Her customers gathered fast. Everyone wanted to taste that magic again. A young man, Chaik, who had just returned from Lagos, took one bite and froze. He swallowed slowly and whispered, "This too, it tastes like my late mother's hand." Manki smiled faintly, "Eat, my son. Some foods remember the ones we've lost." But as he spoke, tears rolled down his cheeks. "It even smells like her perfume," he said. Others tasted too, and one after another, they began crying quietly. By midday, a crowd had gathered. Some laughed, others prayed. They said her food brought back memories of the dead. From that day, people started calling her food the stew of remembrance. Business grew. But whispers began too. Old Manki leaned to another trader. "This woman, are you sure she is still ordinary?" "She prays too much while cooking," the other replied. "And the wind around her pot, it behaves somehow." One night, after everyone had gone home, Manki stayed behind. She sat before her pot, staring into it. "Lord, why does my food make people cry?" she whispered. The stew bubbled, even though the fire had gone out. She stood, frightened. Then she heard it, a soft voice inside the pot. Mama Nkechi. She stumbled backward. Who's there? No answer, only the smell of smoke, and something like laughter fading into the night. The next day, her customers said the stew tasted stronger. But Mama Nkechi's hands began to tremble while she cooked. Her eyes looked hollow. And every time she touched her pot, she felt a heartbeat inside it. She didn't know that someone else, something else, was cooking with her. That evening, as the last customer left, Mama Nkechi turned to cover her pot, but the lid lifted by itself, slowly. Her mouth opened in fear. Something was inside, whispering her name. Before we see what crawled out of that pot, subscribe now, because what happened next made the whole village believe ghosts truly eat among us. That night, the moon hung low over Ogbofia. The wind whistled through the udara tree, shaking its branches like fingers warning of danger. Mama Nkechi could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the sound of stirring, gentle, slow, like someone cooking in the dark. But she lived alone. She sat up on her raffia mat, her wrapper tied tightly. Is it rats? She whispered. Then came the smell. Fresh stew. Hot, spicy, rich, just like her own cooking. But her fire had long gone out. She tiptoed to her backyard, carrying her lantern. The pot she had washed earlier was boiling by itself on cold stones. No fire, no smoke, but bubbling like thunder water. Her hand trembled as she reached out. Who is cooking in my pot? The stew bubbled harder, spilling slightly. In the reflection of the red oil, she saw something, a face, not her own. It was a woman's face, pale like moonlight, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. Mama Nkechi screamed and dropped the lantern. The light died. Darkness swallowed her compound. The next morning, her neighbor, Auntie Oge, found her sitting quietly outside her hut, staring at the udara tree. Nkechi, are you all right? She asked. Mama Nkechi only smiled faintly. I saw her, she said. Who? The one who helps me cook. Auntie Oge stepped back. Don't talk like that, Baiko. But the look in Mama Nkechi's eyes made her heart cold. It wasn't madness, it was fear mixed with knowing. That day, when she returned to the market, her customers noticed her silence. She didn't greet. She didn't joke. She just stared. And somehow, her stew tasted even better, but her eyes never blinked while she cooked. By afternoon, 2 women fainted after eating her food. Another claimed she saw a woman's shadow stirring beside Mama Nkechi. Rumors spread fast. Her son's spirit is cooking with her. No, another shouted, it's her husband's ghost. Some even said her pot had a soul of its own. But Mama Nkechi said nothing. She only cooked, sweat dripping, eyes red, lips whispering prayers that had no sound. That night, as the market emptied, she turned to look up, and saw footprints behind her stall. Wet, muddy, leading into the forest behind the market. She followed slowly, her heart pounding like a drum. The prints stopped beside a shallow grave, freshly dug, with a broken spoon stuck in the soil. And then, a voice whispered from the darkness, you kept your promise, Mama Nkechi, now it's our turn to feed you. She dropped her basin and screamed into the night. The morning after the scream, the people of Ogbofia woke to whispers. A palm wine tapper said he heard a woman's voice crying near the forest all night. A farmer said his dog refused to go near Mama Nkechi's stall. And a young girl swore she saw a light floating between the udara tree and the market gate. Mama Nkechi arrived late that day. Her eyes were swollen, her wrapper soaked with sweat, and her hands trembled as she lit her firewood. The market women greeted her carefully, as if their words might burn. Mama Nkechi, one of them whispered, are you sure you're fine? She nodded silently, but her face looked empty, like her soul had gone missing. When the stew began to boil, people came close again. The smell was too sweet to resist, smoky, rich, and strong enough to make you forget fear. But when she served the first bowl to a trader named Chimelo, he froze mid-bite. He looked up slowly and said, "Mama Nkechi, whose voice is this?" Everyone went quiet. "Voice?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "This food is speaking in my head. It's calling my name." The bowl dropped from his hand. The stew spilled into the sand, and a faint whisper came from it, "You should not have come back here." People screamed. Pots fell. Children ran. But Mama Nkechi only stood there, staring at the stew as tears rolled down her cheeks. She knelt slowly, her lips shaking. "So it's true," she whispered. "The curse has begun." That night, she walked back home carrying her pot close to her chest like a baby. The moon was red again, the wind heavy. As she reached her compound, she placed the pot on the ground and said, "Show me what you want." The pot rattled. The lid lifted. Smoke poured out and shaped itself into two faces, one of a man, one of a boy. Her husband. Her son. She gasped and fell backward. "Odegu. Funny." Their smoky faces flickered. The boy's voice was soft. "Mama, we didn't die in peace. They used your food to curse us." "What?" she screamed. "The day of the accident, it wasn't by chance. They poisoned the oil you sold that day." Her tears dropped into the soil. Who did this?" The smoke began to fade. "They eat from your hand every day, and they will eat their own judgment soon." Then the wind blew, and the faces vanished. The pot went still. Mama Nkechi sat in the dirt, trembling. She now knew the truth, and she swore quietly, "If my food brought peace before, it will bring justice now." By the next sunrise, the entire village of Obofia buzzed like angry bees. Everyone talked about Mama Nkechi's stew that spoke with voices. Some said she was a witch. Some said she was possessed. But others, especially those who had once eaten from her stall, defended her, whispering, "Her food never harmed anyone. It only tells the truth." Mama Nkechi didn't speak much that morning. Her eyes were hollow, her spirit tired, yet her fire would burn brighter than ever. The udara tree above her didn't sway, even the birds refused to sing. But the pot, oh, that pot, boiled as though something alive moved inside it. When she opened it, the stew glowed faintly red, and she heard soft murmurs. Voices. Familiar voices. "Mama, let us feed them," one whispered. She gasped and dropped her spoon. "Feed who?" she asked, trembling. The voice replied, "Those who cursed you." That same day, 3 women who had always envied her success came to the stall, Ngozi, Mama Obi, and Ijeoma. They laughed loudly as they approached, pretending not to fear her. "Mama Nkechi, abeg give us rice and stew," Ngozi said mockingly. "You say your food now sings, and let's hear it sing in our belly." Mama Nkechi looked up slowly. Her hands trembled as she served them, but her eyes were distant, as if she wasn't the one controlling herself. They ate. The market went quiet. Then Mama Obi dropped her spoon. "My tongue, it burns." Ngozi grabbed her throat. "Water. Give me water." Ijeoma screamed, "It's fire. There's fire in my stomach." But when others rushed to help, their bowls were cold, only the 3 women's stew smoked as if fresh from the fire. Mama Nkechi stood frozen, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't cook fire," she whispered. "I only cooked truth." By evening, the 3 women lay weak under the udara tree, mumbling strange things. One kept shouting, "Forgive me, Odegu." Another cried, "We didn't mean to kill your family." The crowd gasped. The secret was spilling out. The village chief arrived, holding his staff. "What is happening here?" An elder pointed at the women. "They are confessing, chief." They poisoned palm oil long ago, the one Momankechi's husband sold that day. The chief turned to Momankechi, whose hand still clutched her spoon. Her voice broke as she said, "My pot remembered." From that moment, no one called her ordinary again. The villagers began to whisper that the pot of Momankechi had become the voice of the dead. But that night, while everyone slept, a strange wind blew through Ogbofia. It carried the smell of stew, hot, smoky, and sharp like pepper, and a single whisper that floated through every hut: "The feeding has only begun." The next morning, fear sat on Ogbofia like fog. No rooster crowed. No baby cried. Even the air refused to move. Everywhere you went, people whispered the same thing: Momankechi's pot kills the guilty. By midday, the village chief called an emergency meeting at the market square. Men gathered, women murmured, and children peeped from corners. At the center stood Momankechi, quiet, wrapped in a faded blue wrapper. Her pot sat beside her, black and glistening in the sun. The chief lifted his walking stick. "Momankechi," he began, "your stew has made people confess and fall. The gods cannot allow such a pot to remain among the living. We must destroy it." A loud murmur rose. Some shouted, "Yes, destroy it." Others whispered, "But she did nothing wrong." Momankechi spoke softly, "If my pot has become a curse, then let it be buried." She turned her eyes toward the Eudora tree. "But know this, what is buried without truth never truly dies." The men carried the pot to the center of the square. One of them, Okori, lifted a heavy stone and threw it with all his strength. The pot didn't break. It didn't even scratch. Another man struck it with a machete. Clang! Sparks flew, but the blade bent. A silence fell over the crowd. Then a sound rose, a low hum, like a song from deep water. The pot began to tremble. Smoke leaked from its mouth, curling upward into faces. Not just one face this time, but many men, women, children, all crying, "We remember." The crowd screamed and scattered. Okari dropped his machete and fell to his knees, shouting, "Forgive us. Forgive us all." Momankechi stood trembling. Her voice cracked. "Go back to your graves in peace. I didn't call you." But the voices only grew louder. "You fed us with love. Now we feed them with truth." The chief ran forward and ordered, "Dig a deep pit. Bury the pot now." For men dug beside the Eudora tree, sweat dripping down their faces. They lowered the pot inside, covered it with sand, and placed a heavy stone over it. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then a faint sound echoed from the ground: clink, 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 like a spoon hitting a pot. The sound shifted slightly. Momankechi's eyes widened. "It's still cooking," she whispered. The chief shouted, "Everyone go home. Nobody must come near this tree again." As the people ran, the Eudora tree shivered. And from under the soil came a small puff of smoke that smelled like pepper stew. The pot was buried. But not defeated. 3 nights passed after the burial of the pot. Everyone in Ogbofia thought it was over. But the silence that followed wasn't peace, it was warning. On the 4th night, something strange began to happen. The villagers started hearing a spoon tapping a pot in the middle of the night. Clink, clink, clink. The sound came from the Eudora tree, the very spot where the pot was buried. At first, people tried to ignore it. Then, goats stopped eating near the market. Dogs howled all night, staring at the tree. And by the 5th night, the smell of stew filled the entire square, thick, smoky, and sweet. Old Papa Ejike, who lived closest to the market, swore he saw steam rising from the ground at dawn. He shouted, "The pot is cooking under the earth." But nobody believed him, until the following evening. The women who had buried the pot, Ngozi, Mama Obi, and Ijeoma, were all gone. Their huts were empty, their beds untouched, and on each of their doorsteps lay a small bowl of stew. The same stew they had eaten before their confessions. Fear spread like harmattan fire. Children refused to sleep. Men carried charms and tied red cloths on their wrists. The chief ordered everyone to avoid the market after sunset. But Mama Nkechi did not hide. She sat under the udara tree every night, staring at the ground. Her neighbors begged her, "Mama Nkechi, please come inside, before the spirits drag you." But she only said softly, "They are my family now." That same night, a trader named Obina who once mocked her passed by the square. He saw her shadow sitting by the tree. "Mama Nkechi," he called. The shadow didn't move. He stepped closer, and suddenly, clink, 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 the sound grew louder. Steam burst from the soil, red and glowing. Then the ground cracked open slightly, and a faint voice whispered, "Obina, have you eaten?" He screamed and ran, but the sound followed him all the way home, the echo of a spoon hitting a pot. By morning, his compound smelled like stew, and his wife found him trembling, muttering, "The pot asked me to eat." The chief called a meeting again, but before he could speak, one of his guards shouted, "Chief, come and see." They rushed to the udara tree, and there, half buried in the soil, the pot had risen again. Its lid was gone, steam pouring out, and beside it sat Mama Nkechi, her eyes open wide, lips whispering, "The feeding is not over." The crowd screamed. Some swore they saw her face flicker like smoke. By the next market day, Obofia was no longer a village of laughter. The streets were quiet. The drums had gone silent. Even the smell of roasted corn had disappeared. But strange tales began to travel. A hunter from Omokwi swore that on his way home, he saw a cooking stall by the roadside, lit by a single lantern, with smoke rising gently into the night. He said the woman cooking looked like Mama Nkechi. But when he called her name, she smiled and said, "You are not ready to eat yet." When he blinked, the stall was gone, only footprints and a warm spoon left behind. At first, nobody believed him. But that same night, another trader from Umulara returned from his journey trembling. He said a woman with glowing eyes stopped him and offered him a plate of rice. The stew, he whispered, tasted like fire and tears. He fell ill the next day and could not speak again. Back in Obofia, the chief called the elders together. "This is spreading," he said, his voice shaking. "The ghost of Mama Nkechi is walking." One of the elders replied, "Chief, she isn't walking. She's feeding. The dead are not done eating." Meanwhile, Mama Nkechi, or what was left of her, still sat under the udara tree. Her skin looked pale, almost ash-colored. Her eyes no longer blinked. Children who passed nearby said she didn't breathe, yet the smoke from the pot beside her never stopped. Late that evening, Adis, a young orphan girl who once washed plates for Mama Nkechi, crept to the square. She missed her so much and wanted to see her one last time. "Mama Nkechi," she whispered, "please talk to me." The woman turned her head slowly, her smile faint. "You shouldn't be here, Adis." "But, Mama, everyone is scared of you. I know you're not bad. You gave me food when nobody else did." A tear rolled down Mama Nkechi's grey cheek. "I am not angry with the innocent. But the pot has its own memory now." The pot rattled beside them, and Adi stepped back. "Mama." A voice came from inside the pot, a mix of men, women, and children whispering together, "Let her go, her stomach is clean." The pot went still. Mama Nkechi looked away. "Run home, my child," she said softly. "Before the others come to eat." Adis ran, crying. But when she turned back from the gate, the udara tree was gone. In its place stood a wooden food stall glowing in red light, with a sign that read, "Night food. Eat only if your hands are clean." That was the first night Mama Nkechi's ghost kitchen opened beyond Obofia. By the next moon, stories about the ghost cook spread far beyond Obofia. People whispered that a small food stall appeared on lonely roads at night. It smelled of sweet stew and roasted pepper, and the woman behind the pot always smiled softly, asking, "Rice or swallow?" But no one who ate with dirty hands or wicked hearts lived to tell the tale. In Oboru village, a group of men decided to test the story. They were the ones who had secretly bought the poison oil years ago, the oil that killed Momankechi's husband and son. Among them was Iz, a tall palm wine tapper who laughed louder than thunder. "Let's see this ghost," he said, holding a lantern. "If she's real, she'll cook for me tonight." They left their houses and reached the bush path between Oboru and Obofia. The road was quiet. No cricket sang. No wind blew. And then they saw it, a small wooden store, glowing faintly red under a tree. A pot steamed on a wooden table. Behind it stood Momankechi. She wore a bright wrapper, her face calm, her eyes deep and hollow like water. The men froze. "Welcome," she said softly. "You have traveled far. Will you eat?" Iz forced a laugh. "So it's true. The famous ghost cook." He stepped forward and scooped rice from the plate she offered. The moment he tasted it, his smile vanished. He began to shake. His eyes widened. He dropped the spoon. "Momankechi, it's you," he whispered. "We didn't mean to." Before he finished, his voice broke. Steam rose from his mouth, and he fell to the ground. The others ran, screaming into the dark, but the road never ended. It twisted back and forth until they found themselves in Obofia market, right under the Udora tree. There, the pot sat, boiling alone, and beside it, Iz's plate, still full. By morning, the people of Oboru came searching for the men, but only found their footprints burned into the earth. That same night, Adiz, the orphan girl, returned to the square. She saw Momankechi standing under the Udora tree for the last time. "Mama," she whispered. "Is it over?" Momankechi turned, her smile gentle now. "Yes, my child. The pot has eaten enough." The Udora leaves began to fall. The pot cracked open with a sigh, releasing smoke that drifted upward into the night sky, forming the shape of a woman and a boy holding hands. Adiz watched as Momankechi's form faded into light. Her voice echoed softly, "Let no one cook with hatred, for the pot remembers every tear." The next morning, only ashes remained under the Udora tree. The market reopened. Birds sang again. But sometimes, when the wind blew through Obofia, villagers still swore they could smell Momankechi's stew, sweet, smoky, and full of memory. And they would whisper, "The dead never forget kindness." If this story touched your heart, never forget the people who feed others with love. Some of them carry silent battles, yet still give joy to the world. In every act of kindness, their spirits live on. Share Momankechi's story, let her memory feed the world with compassion once more.